Hello guys, you're welcome back to this channel. Today we are going to be making a tutorial on how to draft a basic bodice pattern. This tutorial is totally beginner friendly, and if it is something that you would like to learn, please stay tuned to the end of this video. The first thing we are going to do is to measure our shoulder measurements, and the shoulder measurements we are going to be using here is 7.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark it out. Then I'm just going to mark out 3 inches again on that shoulder. So that is going to be our neck width. I've marked out 3 inches. On that 7.5 measurement, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Then I'm just going to use my ruler to make a straight line to connect the 2 points together as I'm doing. So after connecting the 2 points together, the next thing is to take out my horizontal body measurement, and to do that I'm going to place my tape to the beginning of my pattern paper, and I'm going to mark out the bust point, the waist measurement, and the length of the top. So after marking it out, I'm just going to go ahead and form a straight line. So I'm trying to label it. So that's the bust point, that's the waist measurement, and that's the top length. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place my tape on my bust point, and I'm just going to go up by 1.5 inch. Then I'm just going to make a straight line on that 1.5 inch, and that's going to serve as our chest line. So on that chest line, I'm going to measure the 7.5 inches shoulder measurement again on the chest line. Then I'm just going to connect the shoulder to the chest line with my straight ruler. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure out my bust measurements. And for this tutorial, I'm using bust of 34. That means my bust measurement will be 8.5. Then I'm adding the 1.5 seam allowance to it. Then I'll take my tape and place it on that straight line where I'm connecting the shoulder to the chest line, and I'll measure what I have there, which is 7.5 inches. Then I will fold my tape into two to get the half of that 7.5. So I'll mark out the midpoint on my pattern paper. So I'm marking out the midpoint now. On that midpoint, I'm going to go in by half an inch. So now I'm just going to connect it together, that half an inch together with the shoulder line and the chest line, using my armhole curve, and that's going to be the armhole for this clothes that we want to make. So after that, the next thing we are going to do is to mark out our darts. So the nipple to nipple measurement we are using is 6 inches. So that's why 6 inches divided by 2 is 3 inches. So I'm marking out 3 inches on my waistline, the bust point, and the top length. So I'm just going to connect it together in a straight line. So after connecting it together, on the bust point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and on the top length, I'm going to come up by 1 inch as well. Then I'll now move to the waistline. On the waistline, I'm going to measure half an inch on both sides. So I'm just going to connect it together like so. So that is our dart that we have just marked out now. So the next thing we are going to do is taking our waist measurement. Our waist measurement is 7.5 inches. Then we are going to add 1 inch from our dart to it, 1 inch that we are taking it from our dart. Then we add the 1.5 inch same allowance. On our top length, we are going to make use of our hip measurements, and our hip measurement is 40 inches, so we are taking in 10 inches plus 1.5 same allowance. Then we connect this line together. So after connecting it together, we are going to go to our neckline, and we are going to mark out our neck depth. The neck depth we are going to be using is 3.5 inches. So we are using 3.5 inch neck depth. So we take our armhole curve and we connect the neck width and the neck depth together. So after connecting it, we are practically done drafting out our blouse. So the next thing we do is that on our top length, we are going to come up by 1 inch. So we are coming up by 1 inch. Then we use our curve to like connect our top length to that 1 inch that we came up with, and that's just to like give our top a kind of nice shape. So we are done with it. The next thing we are going to do now is to cut out our pattern from the pattern paper. So that is basically our front panel. We move to our back panel now. So for the back panel, I've already measured out the zipper allowance, and I measured 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. The next thing I'm going to do now is just to place my front panel on the back panel. All our measurements are going to start after the zipper allowance. So I'm just going to mark out all the points that we measured on our front panel: the chest line, the bust point, the waistline, and the top length. I'm just going to measure them all like this. Then I'm going to measure the neck, the shoulder line, and the armhole line, just the way we measured the front panel. So now we are just going to measure out the bust span measurement and add the 1.5 inch seam allowance. So the difference between the front and the back panel is the neckline and the armhole. Remember, for the front panel we had to look for the midpoint, came in by 0.5 inch and all that. But for the back panel, we are not doing any of that. We are just going to connect it straight to our chest line. So that's one of the main difference between the front panel and the back panel. So we have successfully created our armhole. So now the next thing we are going to do is to bring our front panel and place it properly and align it well on the back panel. Then after that, we are just going to mark out all our points, like our waistline and our top length span measurement that we measured for the front panel. So after that, we are just going to connect it with a straight ruler. So now that we have connected it, the next thing we are going to do is that on our zipper line, we are to avoid any bulge on our zipper. So on our waistline, we are going to come in by 0.5 inch on the zipper line and on the starting point. So we are coming in by 0.5 inch, then we connect it together with our bust points, just the way I'm doing it. Just look at what I'm doing. So that's the way we are going to do it, guys. This way we are avoiding any form of bulge on our zipper. Then we connect it again to our top length, and that's that about how to get rid of bulge on our zipper line. So remember I said the neck depth is also one of the difference between the front and the back panel. So now for the back panel, our neck depth is going to be shorter than that of the front panel. So for this tutorial, we are using 1.5 neck depth. Remember we used 3.5 for the front panel. So we are just marking out our neck depth. So yeah, we're just going to mark out our that the same way we did for the front panel. So come up again by 1 inch and slant it to the top length again like we did for the front panel. Then we are going to just cut it off. So guys, this is it. You can see the neckline for the front panel is lower than that of the back, and the armhole for the front is deeper than that of the back. So that's our front and the back panel. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Please let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to this channel and like this video. Bye.